You just answered my question, Des. So glad you coordinated this ahead of time. Who's sharing? I don't know. Who's sharing?
All right, I've got you.
Right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here on Thursday, February 10th. This is MS Office Hours. I am one of your co-hosts, Heather Cox. Next to me, with me today are my other co-hosts and lovely friends. Go for it, Steph.
Hi, everybody. Stephanie Stevens. So excited that you're here with us today, and excited that we've also got our girl Victoria with us. What's up, Victoria?
Hello, I'm Victoria.
And scene. And
Right.
we're very pumped. Like we said, we've said this a couple times. Yeah, we love Kristin and Desiree, and we were so excited that they came up with this topic. We thought it would be a great one. We're all feeling it. Like I said, she had me at the word happy hour. Let's turn it over to them. Let's have a little fun and figure out how we can avoid that burnout. So, ladies, it's all you.
Sounds good. I appreciate that, Heather. Des, I'll get started since you're going to be driving the bus, so to speak. I'm so excited to be back here again. For those of you, I've met a lot of you already previously on Happy Hour, or on Happy Hour. We're going to call it Happy Hour from now on.
We should call it Happy
Hours. So when we were all kind of talking about presenting today, I don't know about you, but especially when we talk about burnout today, I really didn't want to talk about product. I really didn't want to talk about work, like, you know, what I do all day, every day, and what I'm trying to do to sell my product, which for those of you that don't know, I'm a service specialist on the U.S. education team. And if anybody that joined late, I'm doing this all backwards. Anybody that joined late, I'm Kristin Kolodziej. That is my new married name. If any of you know me from previously, I'm Kristin Horvath. I'll respond to just about anything at this point. But in just a second, I will pass it to my teammate and great friend, Desiree Daniels. But just to level set today, you know, take happy hour for what it's worth. I think the thought being that we hope to leave today with a lot of laughs. We've already had a lot of laughs. That's why I love this group. It's already, if I can have a call like this every day throughout the week, that would be huge. So we just wanted to kind of lighten the mood a bit and talk a little bit about some best practices and kind of how we're surviving this new normal and hybrid life. Not always easy. And so be prepared for some honest talk. And we're going to ask you guys to certainly get some input and some feedback and share some stories as well. So that being said, Des, I'll pass it to you.
Well, I was pinging Kristin before we started this, and I was like, if I had this kind of call every day, I think my burnout level would be like almost none. So so happy to be a first-time guest on the office hours, now happy hour. So it's very nice to meet everyone. I am Desiree Daniels, and I am the business application specialist. But as Kristin said, we're not going to get into product, but I cover everything Power Platform and Dynamics for K-12 for the Greater West. So I am definitely feeling a lot more of the pressure and the stress that comes with our workload. And I think we can all relate to that. And so as Kristin was saying, like we were just, you know, thinking through a topic that I think is very relevant to everyone these days. And it is the topic of burnout. Yes, we're going to get to the productivity hacks, but before we can be productive, I think we need to address some of the elephant in the room that really hinders our productivity, and that is feeling overwhelmed, feeling defeated or tired all the time. And we can use a lot of different words for that, but the truth is it's burnout. And we need to figure out what's causing it, but also what we can do to help minimize it in our day-to-day life. And sometimes that may mean you have to do big changes, but a lot of times I think it's the small things we need to do, like getting outside more often, taking more walking breaks. I think that is really what can help us adjust. So if you're a Pinterest person, I'm sure you recognize some of these Pinterest quotes that we have gathered here for one of our colleagues. And, you know, two of them really stick out to me. And the first one is that one in the top left corner, that burnout is what happens when you try to avoid being human for too long. And I think that is really relevant, because if we just keep going at that, burning candles at both ends and all the irons in the fire, like all the sayings that we've always kind of grown up with, and we just do, we shoulder the burden, we keep pushing forward, and we don't take that time to rest, and that can catch up with us. And the other one that really sticks out to me is like, burnout is a sign that something needs to change. And I think that's really the key. So when we had this internally, and that's kind of what we were talking about, is like, we've been going through, especially with the pandemic, Microsoft has really put an effort in managing a better work-life balance for us. And that has helped, but a lot of it is also up to us as individuals to put those boundaries in place and identify, what does burnout actually look like for us? I always thought it was just tired, or if I get really cranky and short, I know that that's normally like a cue. I need to step back for a minute. But yes, that's very accurate, Andy. That's exactly how I feel sometimes. It's just like about to explode. But when I saw this list of what burnout can look like, I was amazed at how many check marks I could put on this list. And I think that was really eye-opening for me. And I know that was for you too, Kristin. Like, that was something.
I think for me, I can look at the emotional effects and the physical effects. I mean, the past 2.5 years, I think for everybody, I mean, that's just a given. We've all experienced something in this form or fashion, but the professional effects was what really slapped me in the face, because I've had just about every one of those feelings. And Steph, to your point earlier, I refuse to use the term burnout, or I refuse to even admit that I'm feeling any of these things, because it makes me feel like I'm failing. And it's not actually a product of me failing. I don't know. There's something to be said about being vulnerable and being able to put this out there and talk about this. And I know we joke about a lot on office hours, but I just, that being able to talk about that, and that's what we did. We had similar discussions internally with our education team a couple weeks ago. And I think a lot of our teammates walked away with the feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to know I'm not the only one that has felt like this. And I think one of the first steps is recognizing that you're not alone. And then how do I then help others around me, and how do I help myself? And it's kind of I always refer to the oxygen mask metaphor. You put your mask on first before you can help anybody else. So recognizing any of these, of what burnout can look like, recognizing that this is happening. Number one, there's nothing wrong with you. And you're not failing. You may feel like you're sinking, but there are ways to combat this. So I think that's kind of where we want to go next, is how are we trying to get ourselves out of this?
Correct. And it gave me also, like, I could see a lot of this in the emotional effects, and it helped me realize that there was like nothing wrong with me. I just needed to kind of take a step back and figure out, how do I bring that balance back into my life and get the support I need? So we're going to go through some fun ones they're all doable. Now, some of them we may not like.
They're all very basic too. And I was pinging Des ahead of time, and I said, we might have missed, underestimated. That's the word I was looking for. Words are hard today. The crowd, you guys are going to have some probably even more robust productivity hacks. But these are the real basic ones that we probably just don't even think about on a daily basis. But start doing these regularly, and the change is huge. The small fixes can make a huge change.
They really can. And the first one, and why it's number one, is protect your calendar. I think we all say it, and you hear it all the time, like, manage your calendar. But how many times have you also said, I put focus time on there and no one obeys it. No one respects it. No one respects the focus. And I've actually started renaming my focus time in my calendar that respect the focus time, because I was having so many requests that all needed to be 911. And so now I kind of have a qualifying process of who gets on my calendar at like the time frames that needs to be there, because while I wish I was superhuman, I'm not. And so having back-to-back meetings day after day after day after day, it actually does a disservice. I can't serve my customers. If I'm jumping from meeting to meeting, there's no room for follow-up. I'm exhausted. I'm not giving my best to you guys or to my coworkers. And so that was something that's really important. And of course, if you're using Viva or, focus time, if you're using that element to help schedule your focus time, highly recommend that you keep that up. If you don't know how to do that, definitely figure it out and we can help you with that, because I do that. It's now part of my weekly planning. I let it schedule. 2 hours is kind of I have found my sweet time. And so I choose mornings so I can get the most out of my time out of there. But I also started blocking off stuff for lunch, breaks, emails, because I don't know about you guys, but it's like, even in the virtual hybrid world, it can just, your office is your virtual space. And so if you don't protect it, people can just always be hanging out in there and asking a lot from you. So really important to protect your calendar. And then when you need to have, those conversations, that heart to heart moment, if someone keeps trying to take your focus time or they're not respecting your calendar, it's okay to say, hey, this is why I need this boundary, or this is why I have this. And then I love how Kristin, she put in a note there. It's like, don't talk about work if you're taking a break with friends or if you're taking a moment away. Like, find some time to connect with people outside of just maybe the work projects that you're doing.
Yeah, because I think, and I mean, we're not all necessarily in the same boat, but we all experience this at one point in time. But for us, especially at Microsoft, like, we aren't traveling. We're slowly getting back to traveling. And Heather and Stephanie have already been to an event together, and I'm really jealous about it. And I had major FOMO. But we are lacking those authentic, just side conversations. And so, and it's kind of awkward and funky to force it, but I set up coffee time and coffee chat with coworkers to just talk about life, and then have, an inner circle of work friends. And even if you don't have, because I had to think about this for a second when I was teaching, I wasn't necessarily best friends with all of my teacher friends. I had my friends outside of school. But just to have some form of an outlet throughout the day, especially to be able to take a step away from what you're doing at work, because it can be extremely draining. For those of you that are back on campus and physically interacting with people again, like, I'm jealous, to be very honest. I can't wait to get back out there and do that. So just those types of, just keeping that balance is so important.
So it's so important. And that kind of leads us to like that taking the breaks. And yes, really take them. If you are a people manager and you're leading a team, I highly encourage you to somehow fit this in. And if you already are, we would love to hear that, because I know that's something I actually share with my manager, is like, how am I planning on taking care of my mental health? And I know, like, Kristin does this also with Meg, and like, it's a check-in. Like, they will hold us accountable to this. And it actually helps. Like, my manager did that today during our one-on-one. We've been back to back to back. And the first thing he asked me was like, have you taken a moment yet to breathe? And I was like, no, I can't stop. And he was like, outside for 2 minutes, come back in. And it is different because like it's hard to put that boundary in place. And so it's nice to have the accountability partner, if you will, even if it's your manager, to help you kind of do that, which also leads us to, it's okay to say no. I think that's also a basic one. I have had to work on like a recovery, like, people pleaser, saying yes all the time. And so it is important to have that no time, because you're saying yes to something better, right? Or it's just not now. So you need to be able to articulate that and put that in place. It will save you so much. And turning off notifications when you can and where you can. So important.
I just don't even, like, I forget about notifications, and then I just find myself keep hiding them. But then if you forget to turn them off, I don't know, for me, it stresses me out. Yeah. Because then I'm like, constantly, it's a constant reminder. Like, I think the only notifications that I even have on my phone for work are for meeting reminders, like 15-minute meeting reminders. And I don't even want to do this, but I've got Teams chat on my phone. I know plenty of my coworkers that don't have anything work related on their phone, on their personal phone. And I admire that. I wish I could get to that point. I have learned, though, when I'm off, and I actually learned this from Des, when I'm off work, I put quiet hours completely on Teams. I turn off all of my notifications. Like you won't be able to find me. So it's just important to think about that and how you justify or how you adjust that to fit your lifestyle and what works best for you. Of course, it works differently for everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Is that it is the customization, and that's the balance. That's the balance piece, right? And so, like developing that routine. Not everyone is going to be the 5 a.m. workout club. Like I'm trying to get back there. That's not me. Kristen's my inspiration, and so like trying to develop a routine that fits your life, and knowing that there's a lot of variables that always flow. So sometimes even I've found that developing routines to fit different seasons instead of it like being a black and white decision has helped me. That's kind of how I think about things. But figure out what it is that helps you refill your tank, and then communicate it with your team if you need to. And that takes a little bravery. Like it's not the easiest thing to be like, hey guys, I needing, these are gonna be my new work hours because of what I need. But it actually helps when you start it, they do it, and it kind of becomes this chain effect, and everyone starts showing up a little bit better. And probably the last one before we get to some of the other tips, it's the importance of sleep. I would say that's probably like I don't know. I'm now loving sleep. I need sleep so much more.
And we're not trying to be your mamas by any means,
No.
but I know that I'm a happier person when I get decent hour. And everybody's different. Like my husband can operate on 5 hours of sleep or more. I don't do well less than 7.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a luxury, I know, but that's huge. And just I think listening to your body as well. We don't often do that. Like somebody was putting in the memes earlier about, you may not think you have burnout, but your body does. Amen. Amen to that. And even just simple things too, making sure you're drinking enough water during the day and making sure that you're, I don't know, eating lunch, eating breakfast. I talked to my boss at 12:30 today, and I was complaining that I hadn't had lunch today, and she was just eating her breakfast. So, I have to believe these things are happening to all of us. It's not just Microsoft. I think it's the environment that we're living in. So how do we readjust that, and how do we create a new culture? I think that's the bigger piece of all of this. Is we are creating a whole new culture for ourselves. How we all can live in this environment.
And that's a good point, because it is changing the narrative around burnout and not looking at it as a weak feeling or something that's wrong with you, and like putting something more sustainable in place to just help us be better people. And so there is a kind of a template here that we have started implementing on how do we start breaking this down into tangible work. So of course, those productivity tips were probably more like daily and weekly habits of just how to manage the workload and the responsibilities of life. Well, this is more of like, how do we take that to the next level and really help restore our energy and manage more of the work stress or life stress that we may be dealing with, like where work is only one facet of our life. And so something that I've been trying to put more into place is like even taking a half day a month of like a mental health day. I'm trying to work myself up to a full day. Sometimes I will do that, but it is about actually using that, not for life admin stuff is what I call it, like taking your car into the dealership or running to get groceries or doing all the errands. It's actually a day of like unplugging, a day for you to just take away and enjoy something that you do. So that's like more of the macro level. Then there's what are you going to put into your week level so that you have a way to recharge, whatever that may look like for yourself. And if you need to outsource some help, that's another thing that you may have to consider. It's like, how can I ask for help on tasks that I can't do, and I need some help on doing that. Like asking for help is really big. And then of course, the micro way. It's like, how are we doing this every day to just kind of recharge? I think that's the hardest one for me. I haven't mastered that one yet because I get into my going every day. But I'm really trying to work on at least taking a 30-minute lunch break. And I think I saw someone post, like, because I work at my desk at home still, it's important for me to just step and go outside. It's amazing how I can go 4 days sometimes without leaving my home. And that's not good. That's not good. So I think that's something that I've had to really practice. It's like a 30-minute walk.
My husband will ask me, he'll like call to check in on me during the day because he's not at home. He'll be like, have you seen another human today? Have you been outside of the house today? So for those of you that are still working from home, that's life for me
It's
these
life.
days.
It's life. It's like crazy. And it's real. And so I know I'll text, like Chris and I are in a group chat with another friend, and like I'll send pictures of like a midday walk as almost like accountability proof that I've been outside to see the sun. So it's just something to think about. But it has helped. It helps so much knowing you're just not alone in your effort to try to like live life better. And so a little fun, some resources that we actually found internally. So these are docs that we'll drop the links here, and they're just wonderful resources on everything from managing collaboration and what that can actually lead to, and how to manage kind of just the drain of over collaborating. I know that's kind of funny to say, but there's some resources there and articles, some books, some podcasts, tips on writing more effective meetings, tips on how to write better and more effective emails, how to manage your emails, how not to multitask, how to be better at handling a lot of tasks coming your way. And then some great adoption references for just developing new habits. And of course, this can be implemented on a larger scale or on your personal scale or departmental scale. So wonderful resources that we'll definitely be sharing with you guys. And that's what we have. And I guess.
Well, pause for just a second before you go into
Okay. No tease.
Don't even tease them with it yet, because I'm not ready to do that. I am curious though from the group, because there's a lot going on in the chat, which is awesome. And a general feeling, it seems like you guys are all on the same page, and you've already kind of created some routines. Is anybody willing to come off mute and share, be vulnerable for a second? And share either a best practice or an experience that they've had in their new world. And maybe your world has changed back to being on campus, and if that's different. Anybody have anything they want to share or questions that you have for us?
I will just tell you that we did go to a face-to-face conference, and my stamina and my inability to be physically with people and sort of like on for that amount of time was back to zero. And I think that that's something I did not expect. I think because we are all have been sort of like living a different kind of life, even if I'm taking breaks or whatever, I'm sitting at my desk a lot, right? And or standing, and I don't move a lot. And so like having to march through a conference or a convention center and stand and talk to people for hours, and then you of course want to like hang out with your team and go out to dinner. Like I was exhausted. I felt like I had the flu when I got home, not because I was ill, but just my body was like, what are you doing? We have not done these things. So I think take it easy with yourself too. The folks I know that are returning back, whether they're at schools or campuses or whatever, it's hard to get back in the swing of things. And if you have the ability to like sort of flexi your schedule and do a day a week for a while, do 2 when you feel like it, that's a good way to handle that.
Yeah, I mean, I one of the things I want to add is, I do understand, and we at Microsoft really are quite fortunate that, our schedules change daily, and they're very gracious with allowing us a fair bit of flexibility with our schedules. And I know that that's not the same situation for everyone. And so a lot of people are going to be sitting at their desk, and they might not get outside for 30 minutes as much as they desperately want to. And it was probably about, I don't know, maybe like 9 months ago when somebody actually, like when we started getting a little bit sillier at the beginning of our office hours calls, that somebody said something about it, and it was like, oh, the vibe has kind of changed, and 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 so then that's why you now see that it explicitly calls out pre-show party and the email invite, and really, quite honestly, I think one of those things that we need, and that's why the chat, like we have to laugh. So if you're sitting at your computer, if you're in meetings, like that's part of why we are just fools at the beginning, why we call it shenanigans foolery, why we laugh and joke, and why the same people really do come back all the time because of the fact that you have to take those moments of joy. I watched this one person on TikTok and all these things, and then at the end he's like, find your joy. And for me, Thursdays, this is where I find my joy. Like when we get on here, I actually was in a meeting. Poor Victoria had to stay in the meeting. I asked if I could leave early because I didn't want to miss the beginning. I knew Stephanie would be here by herself. I didn't want to miss it. But find your joy in whatever it is, whether it is getting up or if it's coming here and laughing and teasing about silly names and throwing gifts in. But I think that's, for me, that's one of the things. I mean, Stephanie we're on the same exact team at Microsoft. And so our team does that a lot. We just try to laugh as much as possible to reinvigorate ourselves and, to get balled up things from your child, in the middle of a call. That's cool too. But those are things, to do. So anybody else, who else out there wants to kind of throw something? What do you do? Go back to their question. What do you do to what's your hack?
Heather, was it poop or chocolate?
It's just paper. Just paper. So
There was a
thank
chance
goodness.
that there might have been one of the two of those things inside
Yeah.
the paper.
I like it. Video games. I'm not a gamer, but I appreciate that. Like things that, and I have so much admiration for people who meditate and follow great breathing practices, and even those that are super yogis. I don't have the patience for it. I probably should. But I admire anybody that can recharge that way. I've tried breathing exercises. I end up laughing through them. Having a pet is huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Also,
And I'm not saying get a pet if you don't have one, but it's kind of amazing.
my children refer to themselves as emotional support humans, depending on which one of them I like more that day. And so as much as they're like chaotic and a mess and kids are a lot of work, I think when you have somebody else to care for, it's easier not to focus on what's wrong with you, which is probably an unhealthy way to deal with it. But whether
see it, but my red light, all this meeting, so.
Okay. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love the feedback of the number of people who have been back in person.
Yeah.
And then it's been busy, and now and unfortunately you're doing multiple jobs. I sympathize with that. I can imagine that is challenging within itself.
Yeah.
Well, we have like 4 more minutes. The only thing I promised product wise, I really just threw these slides in to make Steve happy. If you haven't seen the Surface portfolio in a hot minute, we do have some new devices that are a part of our portfolio now for those of you that are interested. If you don't, and we joked about it at the beginning, but if you don't follow me on LinkedIn, I typically post the most updated information on what's going on with Surface, and lots of events that we have around Surface. I think the coolest thing for any of my K-12 crowd in the house, if you have not seen the latest release of Laptop SE, it is our sub 250 by the penny Windows device. And so there's lots more to come around what Laptop SE will mean for school districts, especially really in the 3rd through 12 space, if you will, not limited to. So lots of cool excitement around that particular device, and engineered specifically and only for education. And then across the board, we've got Go 3, the latest edition of the 3rd generation. I still remember when the 1st generation of Go was released. Laptop Go, if you haven't seen a Laptop Go or played around with Laptop Go, that's a great middle device to play around with. Absolutely. Yep. I love that device. It's just a solid option. My personal favorite's always going to be Pro, and I still believe in that for students and teachers both. So if you want to flip to the next slide quick, so I could probably do that. My personal favorite right now that I'm working from for educators and for admin and for any staff, faculty alike, the new Laptop Studio. So it's essentially our new hybrid model. It's our compromise between the Surface Book and what the detachable was for that form factor. It is now, it can fold completely down into studio mode and then into tablet mode flat without actually detaching from the device. So you haven't played with that yet. That's a really cool device. I actually ink a lot more on my studio than I ever did with my book device. So if you have questions about our devices, I would say come and ask me, and you're more than welcome to come and ask me. You do have Surface specialists that can help. And again, find me on LinkedIn, pop me a message, ask me questions about it. The only thing I really can't do is like get you free devices. So just put that disclaimer out there. But
Believe
yeah,
me, if she could, I would have had a cooler loaner during the gap period.
trust me.
I didn't get the friends and family treatment either.
There you go.
Well,
But shout out to the people in the chat that have noted that they have Surface devices. Andy pointing out that they replaced their Dell and Lenovo devices, and then who is that from UF? Well, Dwayne, I think.
Dwayne or Joe, yeah.
The SE devices.
They've got to be fanboys for us. I love it.
Yes.
And to wrap it up, Stephanie and I both threw Instagram links in the chat that make us smile. One of them, the one that I put in there, makes its rounds between friends that may or may not be on this call a lot. And it cracks me up because it has to do with, work and, how we're feeling some days, when we're burned out. So if you are an Instagram user, you're going to need to click on both of those, get yourself a good time. Steph, your camera is not on. Don't know if it's the new computer being fun with you again.
Yeah,
there she is.
Trying to figure things out over here. I've got some things I need to install and image and do a little number on.
Awesome. Well, I am going to stop the recording. I would love to say thank you to